Jacksonville Mayor Donna Deegan and other city leaders are getting ready to give us an update about the city's plans regarding Hurricane Idalia. You can see that the podium is there. The mayor will be joined by Jacksonville Beach's mayors as well as other city leaders. Sheriff T.K. Waters is usually there.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you.
JEA leaders. Let's listen in on what the mayor has to say.
We're continuing to prepare for Idalia, and here's the latest on the storm for the National Weather Service. Idalia has strengthened to a Category 1 hurricane, will further intensify tonight before making landfall early Wednesday on the Gulf Coast of Florida. We can expect to feel our strongest impacts tomorrow afternoon. And Idalia will bring tropical storm force winds and a storm surge up to 3 feet, the potential for flash flooding and threat of tornadoes. A westward shift in the forecast has slightly reduced the wind and rainfall flooding threats, but we still expect major impacts to our community. I'm going to be bringing up Alex from the National Weather Service to give you the particulars on the forecast coming up after we hear from everybody else here this morning. I just want to give you an update on where things are for the city of Jacksonville. All city of Jacksonville buildings remain closed to non-essential personnel. That's today and tomorrow. And the Duval County Public Schools will remain closed through Thursday. That remains the same, just same as yesterday. Jacksport closes today at 5 p.m. There will be no lifeguards on Duval County beaches after 5 p.m. today, so stay out of the water, please. There is a lot of rip current out there, and there is absolutely no scenario under which it is safe to be out there in the water. So please do not endanger the lives of any sort of first responders or anybody that might want to hop in and save your life because you decided to get in the water. Just don't do it. Do not go near any downed power lines, and don't walk or drive in any standing water. Likelihood of standing water is going to be pretty big in some areas after this storm. Also, if you live in a low-lying area or a coastal area or a manufactured home where you have concerns, this would be the time to access one of the 6 shelters that is open. And here's who they are right now. We have Chimney Lakes Elementary School, La Villa Middle School, Ocean Way Elementary, Landmark Middle School, Atlantic Coast High School, and the Legend Center. We are also working to add a 7th shelter in the Baldwin area, as that community is likely to feel the strongest impacts from Idalia as it makes its way toward us. Additionally, JTA will be providing continuous bus transportation for the residents of Ken Knight Drive neighborhood over to the Legend Center. As you know, all of you know how historically bad that area is in terms of flooding, so we'll be providing those folks with a way out of there. There is a bus stop at Moncrief and Ken Knight Drive, and buses will run every half hour starting at noon today. JTA will provide rides back to the bus stop after the shelters are closed. So I want to thank all of our first responders and Red Cross volunteers for the incredible work they are doing and will continue to do throughout this storm. All of this information will be continuously updated at jaxready.com and the Jax Ready app. So I'm going to turn it over now to Council President Ron Salem.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that. I just want to reassure the community the City Council is being updated throughout the day through various phone calls that we're having with them. Many of them will be out in the community in their districts assessing the damage and communicating that back to the emergency preparedness people. So we are prepared, and they will be updated tonight, tomorrow as well. So thank you, and let me bring up Sheriff Waters.
Thanks, President. So JSO's patrol force will be moving in patrol assets on top of what we already have. 60 more tonight, 30 on the west side of the river and 30 on the east side of the river. Thursday, we'll ramp that up to 100 during the day, 100 additional, and 100 during the night additional. So we should have plenty of coverage, and we're ready to serve. I'll pass this over to Chief Powers.
Good afternoon. JFRD is kind of in the same posture as the Sheriff's Office is. We will be doubling our staffing tonight at 8 o'clock, and that will continue forward until we deem it has become safe to reduce that staffing back down. At 2 o'clock this afternoon, we will be deploying our ERAT teams that I talked about yesterday to the 5 locations within Duval County, and also those swiftwater rescue assets will be deployed as well. And our USAR team will be on standby at the Prime Osborne, but that all begins at 2 o'clock this afternoon. With that, I'll turn it over to our Director of Emergency Preparedness, Andre Ayu.
Good afternoon. I'm going to repeat a few things that I mentioned yesterday, but I think it's important enough to mention today since the storm is almost on us. If you haven't already, now's the time to make sure that you have your supply kit together, know your evacuation zone, and with the heightened threat of tornadoes, now's the time to review your safety plan with your family. If you have yard debris, make sure that it's cleared and not blocking storm drains. And now is also the time to walk around your property and secure loose items. Along with the tropical weather threats, I hate to bring this up, but the heat advisory is in effect until 7 p.m. tonight. So please, if you're out there prepping for the storm, make sure you hydrate and take appropriate breaks. So with that, I just want to thank you, and I'll have Jay Stoke, JA, come up. Thank you.
Thank you. The storm, while it has shifted slightly and there might be slightly less wind, is still going to be damaging to our system. We expect to see outages starting early in the morning and tomorrow. We have all of our crews ready and on standby, and we have 500 extra crews, folks that are coming in from Missouri and Texas and contract crews to respond the best we can to keep the water, the wastewater, and the electric up and running. As the mayor said, please stay away from any down power lines, and we're as ready as we can be right now, including the help and support that we get from JTA with our busing, and I think Nat Ford.
Thank you, Jay. Good afternoon. Nat Ford, CEO, JTA. Our fixed route services, Skyway, Ready Ride, Express Select, and Clay County services will all be suspended tomorrow. We hope to resume services on Thursday morning, depending on road conditions. St. John's River Ferry service was suspended this morning for the entire day, and we do not expect to resume service until Friday. We have begun shelter evacuation shuttles to all locations, locations that we are sheltering. That began at 12 noon today, and as Jay mentioned, we are partnered with JEA for those additional crews that are coming into town to shuttle them to the staging areas for support of power restoration. As it relates to emergency preparedness on fuel reserves, we've reserved enough diesel fuel as well as gasoline to support our teammates here. With that, I'll turn it over to Nina Sickler, Director of Public Works. Nina.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Our right-of-way and stormwater management teams started yesterday and are continuing today to site review and prepare for the storm to make sure our stormwater system is cleared and ready to go. Our debris management contracts, we have 2 contractor teams that will be positioned on standby starting at 7 p.m. On either side of the river to assist ERAT as needed. We also have our traffic engineering lift trucks positioned on each side of the river to monitor signals and signs and ready to assist in repair as needed. And a reminder that garbage, recycling, and yard waste, the Wednesday pickup will be moved to Saturday, and Thursday and Friday we're anticipating to be unchanged. And next, back to Mayor Deegan.
Okay, so I'd like to bring up Alex now from the National Weather Service so he can give you more nuance on the forecast, and we'll answer any questions you have.
Okay, so the latest update from the National Hurricane Center has just been released at 11 a.m. We are now looking at a near Category 2 storm out in the Gulf, and that is she's going to intensify through tonight into tomorrow up to landfall. And now we're looking at landfall of potentially a high-end Category 3. Though we've had a westward shift, it does not mean that our impacts are completely gone. It means that the winds are slightly reduced, but the strength of the storm and the speed of it is going to basically make it where it doesn't weaken as fast as it normally would if it was a slower-moving storm. The actual size of the storm, the wind field, the strongest part, is going to be fairly small and compact compared to a storm like Irma. So, though we'll still feel those winds, hurricane force gusts look like they're going to be not as likely as they were, but potentially gusts up to 70 miles per hour are certainly possible. And I'll take any questions you guys have.
I have a general question. Excuse me if I missed this. At what point will we shut down the bridges?
Yeah.
So we're going to monitor, usually 40 miles per hour sustained, but sometimes that varies. If you start having very strong gusts, where vehicles will be in trouble. We're going to monitor that and start closing them down then. But we'll get with our partners at Florida Highway Patrol to determine that. But they're going to have people stationed in at some of the bridges, especially the larger ones, to monitor the wind speed. 40 miles per hour sustained, but if the gusts get too high, we'll make a call then. But the mayor and I will talk about that also.
Can you address any questions regarding possible evacuations? As I know you were going to discuss that after yesterday's
Yeah,
briefing.
I'm sorry. I thought we released something on that yesterday, but no, we are not ordering any sort of mandatory evacuations. At this point, it doesn't look like there is a need to ask people to leave unless they feel like they are in a vulnerable place. If there are special needs and they're just going to feel better if they go to a shelter, if they're in a particularly low-lying area and they're going to feel better if they're in a shelter, that's when we'd ask people to. We've got those 6, now almost 7 shelters open. We have the ability to open more if we need them, but for the time being, we just don't see that evacuations are necessary.
Is there a general timeline for when the storm, we're going to start feeling the impact of the storm, when it's going to be most intense, sort of hours of the day, and then when it'll finally move through and we'll be back to pre-storm conditions?
Yes. So at this point, the prediction is that it will be making landfall in the Big Bend region around sunrise tomorrow, give or take an hour or so, and then proceed northeast and bring us our heaviest weather between the late morning hours, so around like 11 a.m. through the afternoon hours, about 3 p.m. It's a quick moving storm, so those impacts are going to be a few hours, and then we're going to see improvements quickly into the evening as the storm moves to the north.
Are you anticipating any storm surge at all at the beach?
There's going to be some surge. There's a little bit of a southeast wind ahead of it, which would push a little water in. But really, the winds are not going to bring a lot of water into the coast because it's going to shift pretty much somewhat offshore fairly quickly. So that's not going to be a pattern that sets up to, create a lot of surge. We're saying up to 3 feet, and that's kind of the worst case scenario at this point.
Same along the river then as well. The river's not a concern.
There will be points along the river, particularly like the North Bank and areas like that where we may see the water levels rise. As far as breaching, that's a little uncertain now considering the winds may be a little bit lighter with the storm shifting a little bit further west, but certainly that's a possibility that we could have some issues along the river, especially along that part in a couple low-lying areas like Kidney Drive.
I know there's concern about schools. I know we've talked yesterday, but there's been, for Friday, the football games, people have been asking, are those events canceled or moved?
We are monitoring the conditions, and we are hopeful that we will be able to have Friday night football. We will have to wait and see. We'll have more once we see the effects of the storm. But thank you for that question.
Because we know some games have already been shifted.
Our games have not been shifted at this time.
Mayor Deacon, yesterday you made some comments about sandbags and there was some confusion. Can you give us some clarification or expound on that?
I'll just tell you exactly what I said to you yesterday. There has been for a while a determination that sandbags are of questionable help when it comes to situations like this. In fact, science simply does not support that they are helpful as much as they may cause water to remain in a place and not let it out. So I know that some
They're
people
revisiting
want
a question
sandbags.
that the
There's
mayor
people are searching
addressed
for all kinds of
yesterday, that sometimes sandbags can be productive and help keep water out. And yesterday she said that sometimes they can just be just as harmful and allow water into a facility. Let me talk about some of the new things that they addressed today. They talked about the fact that there will be no lifeguards on area beaches. Rip currents could be a problem. You're being asked to stay away from area beaches because the waters will be treacherous. They are also asking you to stay clear of downed power lines. One of the biggest problems will be that there will be power out in some of the areas, the biggest areas where there will be downed power lines. There could be downed power lines and power will be out, will be west of the city. JEA, FPL will have its crews out there as soon as it's safe to do so. They'll have crews staged in strategic areas to get the power back on. And one of the newest things we heard is that they do expect expect there to be problems along the 301 corridor, and consequently, they're going to open a new shelter in the Baldwin area. We'll have more on that on newsforjax.com. Also, JTA is going to be running buses in an area that traditionally floods along Ken Knight Drive. All that new information to be posted on newsforjax.com. Our coverage continues. Katie will also have the latest in an update